Nation, I want to welcome you to the Lucha Lounge. Without further ado, here's part 2. I prefer to go solo, I'll be honest, in my experiences. Now, if you're talking valets as opposed to managers, I wouldn't mind having a valet, but for the most part, I do a lot of the talking. I've only had really one manager. His name was Scotty, and he was pretty much a cross between Kenny Rogers and Ric Flair. And he wore loud suits, and it was when me and London were tagging, and he did all the talking. I mean, we could barely get in a word in edgewise. And I don't know, it was kind of frustrating at times because he would just book us for matches, you know, and put us out there for things, and we'd kind of just scratch our heads because we really never got a chance to say much. But as far as valets, Gorgeous George, personal highlight of mine, having her walk me out. I mean, hell, she did walk out Macho Man and so on and so forth. But my favorite manager or valet, I like to include the valets in this, would be Tavia. For obvious reasons, but Tavia has always been my favorite. I do think managers can play an important role. You know, some examples, Paul Heyman when he was managing Brock Lesnar. Currently, Raisha Shaheed and the job she's doing with Awesome Kong. And what Larry Sweeney's doing. I think they can play. I think it's kind of underutilized. Definitely they can be used to help get guys over. So I think they can play an important role. Wow, tough one. I've got a whole bunch of my matches on my page, but I can't really pinpoint my favorite. That's the problem. I've had a lot of ones that I've liked, whether it be because I was working an AIM or someone who's been in a big federation like Umaga or Sabu or Vampiro or Nowinski or a few others. Or, you know, but some that stick out in my mind would be that NWA Texas Heavyweight title match, the Texas Death Match in Corpus Christi, Texas, against J.P. Black in 2002. 2004, I think me and Mike Fox, PCW's Genocide for the PCW Heavyweight title. That's another personal fave. Me and Hot Stuff, PCW Triple Xmas Tournament Finals for the PCW title. Another one. And the reason for Mike is because that was my first chance to be against Fox. That was my first chance to be in the main event role and vying for a title, that the big company's title, and to hold my own against Mike. I always considered Fox a standard bearer. Hot Stuff, you know, the guy's been all over the place even back then, and we just clicked. Our chemistry was good, and we just went out there and beat the crap out of each other for the most part. Gave as well as we got, so that will always stand out. I Quit match against Lance Hoyt, and that's because it was just a brutal match, and it went all over the place, and we did innovative stuff for the most part. And another guy I have great chemistry with. So another one, I can't really pinpoint one, so I'll say the ones that kind of stick out. The build-up between me and JP Black at NWA, a lot of mic time. The reason being, we obviously got to be in the anniversary show. We were one of the few guys in Texas that got to be in this anniversary show. And you get a lot of television time, and for every week we were highlighted, we were featured, which is always great. And to culminate in this feud that, honestly, the match didn't end the feud, it just continued the feud. But another one, me and Lance. Back and forth for about 18 months, and a lot of times the reason that sticks out is because at the time he was with TNA, and he was kind of untouchable at PCW, and I was a guy who was back and forth with him, and it seemed like our paths always crossed. If I turned face, he turned heel, and if I, you know, I turned heel on him, and got the crowd started to hate me because I turned on him, and that's another reason, and it culminated in this I Quit match, and 18 months in the making for a match. I mean, we had other matches, but that was kind of the culmination. And then honestly, the other two that really stick out, me and Tim Storm, when he was coming after me for the title, I think because before that he was mainly seen as a tag team specialist, and now all of a sudden he was kind of going out, branching out on his own. And we did really great business. It was a great build-up, something different. We didn't do a lot of physicality. We always just really kind of used our words. We had a contract signing, which was a big deal. He put me out for a while, and we had this big cage match. And I really enjoyed that because it was not just me being the top guy, but helping to elevate someone to that position and someone I truly respect outside of, and we did great business. And another one would be, weirdly enough, me and Jeremy Young. He was a guy that was when I first won the title, and it culminated at Genocide 2005. But another reason is because he was a virtual unknown. We kind of brought him in. He came in demanding a title shot. And another one where we didn't really always fight. It was more words and mind games and so on and so forth. And we actually did great business. We actually were one of the top. I mean, attendance was high for that match and for that show, and that's always a feather in your cap. So there you are. Wow. Honestly, the hardest part would be when I came to Booker's. Transitioning from being a top guy at PCW, not just a top guy, but a guy that other talent kind of looked at for answers to certain questions, and I was booking matches, and I was the top guy on the card, and I was helping raise attendance, and I was really involved, but I was also just mainly a performer. When I came to Booker's, really what I wanted to do was be a student again and have that mind for learning again and absorbing, and I felt that the best way would be just to be a student, not be in shows so much, and focus mainly on what advice and tutoring he was giving me and what mentorship he was giving me. So there, from adjustment period, it was a transition. It was a huge adjustment, and then on top of it, in the middle of it, I lost Tavia or Ashley, and that by far, on a personal level, was the hardest part. It was part of my life and a part of my career where I started to doubt if I still wanted to wrestle, because just a lot of my passion had been taken away when you have a loss like that. So I don't know if a lot of indie talent gets passed up. I mean, there are reasons why, quote-unquote, lesser talent, as people would like to say it. I can't really sit here and pinpoint what WWE or TNA or Ring of Honor or any of them really want. I mean, obviously, I'm not under contract with any of those guys, and if I got under contract or was signed, I couldn't really tell you what it was about me that made them want me. Obviously, you can go with looks, you can go with who they know, but I'll tell you, it's not always who you know. Also, it's who's going to back you, and who's going to put their name out there for you. So I don't know if a lot of indie talent gets passed up. I think this is just the nature of the beast. There's just a huge saturation of guys out there, so a lot of guys might get lost in the shuffle. I do keep in touch with these guys for the most part. And when I say keep in touch is I never truly say goodbye. We never really get lost. We never lose touch completely. You're always going to be kind of intermixing with one another. Your paths will always cross. So the way I've always looked at it is just really not to say goodbye. Lennon and I have been friends for roughly 8 years, and years will pass, a couple of years will pass, and then we'll run into each other, and it'll be like we saw each other the day before. So when they're really close friends, I tend to keep in touch with them somehow, somewhere or another, whether it be email, texting. I mean, unless they change their phone number and we just don't interact, but try. really, once you get into wrestling, it becomes your life. So my circle of friends, my very close circle of friends, are all wrestlers. And I found that as I got more into wrestling, I started losing those guys that were my college friends or my high school friends or friends that I just hung out with, because they're not really going to want to talk wrestling. Because it's just, they're casual fans, and I put my heart and soul, and I bleed, and I've cried and all of that for the business. So it's hard, and you find that when you have someone who has you have something in common like that, kind of stick together. So most of my inner circle are actually wrestlers.